Welcome to the Intimate Marriage Podcast, where I teach educated, successful couples how to have incredible, passionate relationships so that you can stop compromising and start feeling fully alive in your relationship. I'm Alexandra Stockwell, aka the Intimacy Doctor. I'm a physician, a relationship and intimacy coach, and I'm an intimate marriage expert. My husband and I have been married for 26 years. We have 4 children and full professional lives, and we've created an amazing marriage. I've shown hundreds of couples how to do so as well. So if you want to deepen your understanding of your own relationship and learn to access new heights of emotional, sensual, and erotic intimacy, you're in the right place. I will show you how. Now, let's dive in. A warm welcome to Maraya and Michael Brown. I want to hear your love story, how it began, but before we get into all of that, what should people know about you? I'm going to start with you, Michael, because I actually know nothing other than that you're the husband.
Oh, no. Okay. All right. What should people know about me? I love to support Maraya. I love to be the one in the background, sharing all of my love, energy, and belief in her and watching her rise. It's really fun for me to watch her expand and build and create.
Have you always been that way, or is that a reflection of some beautiful internal pivot you've made?
I've always loved believing in people. I've always loved watching people soar. I've always loved sharing my energy with them so that way they can do the things that they love to do. And that's always come really natural and easy to me. At least as far as I can remember.
I even think when he did the World Championship Ironman, and he'd be out there doing the Ironman, cheering everybody on. It really is kind of in his nature. And I think it actually feeds him and fuels him to support others.
There was one of the pivotal books in my life growing up was gifted to me by my older brother when I graduated high school. It was Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. And there was a quote in there that really resonated with me. And it was when Socrates, the mentor in the book, said, there is no greater purpose than being of service. And for me, that really just went right in. It was like, yes, those are the words that encapsulate the feeling. Mm-hmm. So I've tried to live by that. In the past, I've been a physical therapist, and I bring that energy to my patients that I was working with. I'm currently doing a little bit of personal training here, and being able to give the energy, being with my family, being with my children, being able to give my energy to them is just awesome. It's such an incredible gift. Yeah.
Okay, well, this is beautiful, and this opens up a whole episode that we're not going to have. We're going to get back into the relationship. But before we do, I just have one question, because for so many couples, it's very challenging as a woman finds her voice and her feet and just soars. And maybe she's always been that way, but more often the marriage dynamic isn't set up to support that initially. Not too many couples, at least those who are 40 and older, knew enough to set their marriage up with that foundation from the get-go. And so there comes a time where it's complicated for her, but also for him to pivot and really be supportive in the way that you always have been. So do you have one word for the man listening who, hearing you talk, sees the merit, but isn't quite sure how to genuinely get there, even though he knows it's a good idea?
The first word that came to me was trust. Trust in the process, trust in the unification, trust in the partnership, trust in oneself, and trust in each other. The next word that came up to me was surrender. And I think that sometimes we have preconceived notions of what should be, and we try not to should on each other. But if we can let go of those preconceived notions of what should be and move into what is best overall, then we surrender to each other's strengths, and we surrender to where what are the best fit roles for right now in the chapter we're in. Yeah.
I think I love that those are the two words that you use, because I feel like my focus is also trust and surrender. And I'll be honest, I say right now we're in a good chapter. If we would have done this interview a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I was churning, especially when I'm in my PMS time. And I handle my version of having the quote unquote pressure of the finances on my shoulders. We brought him home. We're recording this right now in November of 2022. We brought him home July of 2021. And there's definitely been growing pains. And there's moments where I feel really angry and I feel bitter that all the pressure is on my shoulders. And then I also have to reframe it and go, well, is that really true? Because he's now home doing all of the cooking and the cleaning and the dishes and the laundry and making sure the kids are at hockey practice and soccer practice and ballet, and the house is cleaner than it's ever been. And of course, there's the play of feminine and masculine dynamics that we're finding our way through. And when I'm in a space of scarcity, or I'm lacking the gratitude for what's been created and what's being created, I sometimes get angry and I want him just to bring home the bacon, go make some money. I don't want the pressure all on my shoulders. But for the most part, I feel like we're really working it out and we're finding other ways. Like, I love this podcast because it's really about intimate marriage. I think for the entrepreneurial women out there, and yes, I've always been entrepreneurial, even like as a kid. And I love being on stage, and I really want to create a big life for our children and for our family. And I think that sometimes what ends up happening is, as women, we end up existing so much in our masculine in our working world. Then if we bring it home, it emasculates him and breaks down his confidence and breaks down the vulnerability and love between the two of us. And so I have to perpetually allow myself to be in the energy of receivership. And we find creative ways to still really make sure that he gets to be in that strong masculine space. If part of it is in the bedroom, but part of it is outside of the bedroom too. And I think for the most part, we're really working it out.
That's so good. I'm reminded of my interview with Jennifer Kem and her husband, Nathan Francisco, where she's very clear. She's the CEO at work and he's the CEO at home. And that also took some rearranging. It's not exactly what you're saying. She's more corporate in her attitude, but there's something to it. But before we go further, Maraya, what should people know about you personally and professionally?
Yeah, sure. I'm a midwife by training, and I've been a midwife since I was a young child. And so I've been attending births since 2000, ended up getting my nurse practitioner training at Yale, and I'm functional medicine trained since 2007. So I'm not attending births right now, but I do say that I midwife women through chapters of change. So my work in the world is supporting the game changers, the pioneers that are out there, and I get to hold the space to midwife them through their health journey, their passion journey, their energy journey, their confidence journey, all of that. And then separately, I'm a mom. We have 3 young children that are 10, 8, and 5, and I'm a wife. We're yoga lovers. We're still kind of partially sweaty because we went to hot yoga together this morning, and we love to hike. We lived in Hawaii for 8 years, so Hawaii definitely has a very deep, sacred space for both of us.
Okay, amazing. And I just want to add that you midwife women change makers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds that way, but I just wanted to be explicit about that. Okay, so there's so much in the present moment to dive into, but I can't go another moment further without asking to hear your love story, that amazing first date. Who wants to tell it?
You want to go? Go ahead. You go first.
See, this is where I'd be very happy just listening to Mariah sharing and just, so we go back 2007 on a Sunday. I just finished leading a hike around Hawaii, and we ended up at an ecstatic dance. And
Wait.
What?
We only have a half an hour total. Let me just break the news to you. He proposed our first date.
Yeah. So what did you know or what did you not know? Like, what had that happen that you proposed on the first date and that you said, yes, Mariah? What were you saying yes to? But let's go ahead with what had you propose on the first date?
Well, the pivotal moment for me was the energy that I saw in her. So at that dance, at the very end, I invited her to join, asked her if she wanted to go on a hike. And she had this incredible, energetic, giddy dance where she pumped her arms up and down and made a circle and had this giant smile on her face. And I knew right away that this was somebody I needed to, take into consideration and really dive deeper with. And so roundabout way, we exchanged phone numbers. And at that point in my life, I had done a number of spiritual work and emotional work, and I was ready. And I wanted to put it out there. I didn't want to waste my time in a dating game. And so I literally asked her right away, I said, do you want to have children?
Right. So we met on a Sunday. We talked on the phone on Monday, and it was very distinct. Like, listen, are you looking to get married? Do you want to date? Do you want to have kids? I mean, it was very direct for both of us. Yeah. And then we went on the date on Wednesday.
And Wednesday after the dance, we just talked and talked and talked. And then in the wee hours of the morning,
I think it was 3 a.m. We were still just like cuddled up, half asleep. And he was behind me with his arms around me. And he said, what would you say if I just asked you to marry me? I said, done. I mean, it was so clear. Now, granted, 2 years later, we were living together. Did we already own a house together when you proposed?
I don't know.
He actually got a ring and got down on one knee and asked my dad ahead of time and the whole thing. But really, it was our first date that we both felt totally clear. He kissed me. Our first date, babe.
She kissed me. We still argue about that.
But that was January of 2007. And now we have 3 children and 2 houses and later and a lot of ups and downs, but pretty awesome.
Okay, so you're in a great chapter in your marriage. Pretend that I speak English, but I don't know what that means. Will you lift the curtain, take us behind the scenes? Like, what exactly are you conveying when you say that?
Yeah, for me personally, a week or two ago, we were in the a churning chapter. And the way that we came through it and navigated through it was really spectacular. We got very honest, very real.
Okay, will you describe the churning? Like, you're doing a great overview description, but to make this the most useful to somebody listening, a little specificity would be so appreciated.
Okay. Yeah. So this is not PG. This is not PG-13. Ready?
iTunes doesn't treat it that way. We don't need to either.
I was in a phase in scarcity and feeling pressure financially and putting a lot of pressure on him and feeling pissed off that I was the only one, quote unquote, generating income. So there was that tension. And then I think we both agreed that we felt undermined in how we were parenting the children. So there was more tension. We lived very full, productive lives, and we were kind of passing in the night, so to speak, as like co-business owners, co-household owners, and not really spending time together. And then we have been on a really fun sexual exploration over the 16 years we've been together. And it's been awesome, but I've also been longing for something new and different. And I had specifically, maybe a couple months ago, we were making love and it was really potent. And I asked boldly that I wanted a toy. I wanted with one of the little sucker toys to suck on the clitoris. And because I'm really wanting to explore new kinds of orgasms. And then it had been like 2 months, and we went to yoga on a Monday, and we came home and we're in the shower, and you're like in that anticipation. Ooh, we know what's happening next. And then we get into a conversation. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm just being very honest. I'm a very direct person. I don't sugarcoat things in life. And I also don't sugarcoat them very well in marriage. And I asked, what's going on? I don't want to have to ask again. This is something that I'm longing for. And what I heard from Mike, do you want to share?
Go for it. You're doing great.
So what I heard from Michael was kind of like he was reminiscing in his younger years when he was first introduced to pornography as a form to self-pleasure, and there was guilt and shame around it. And so he felt like if he went into a toy shop that he felt dirty or that it felt pornographic. And for me, it made me feel really sad because I'm your wife. I'm the mother to your children. And this is something I'm asking for. And then it just created more tension. And we ended up kind of in an argument, naked in the bathroom. And next thing I knew, I looked over and he was dressed. And so he'd closed down and I felt more closed down. And it was just like, oh, in that. And then I think we've learned over the years that there's times where we just agree to not talk about something until we're both in the right space to be able to talk about it. And so we've just nurtured a little bit and found other ways to connect. And it helps that I made it through my bleeding time. And now I'm more into my ovulatory time. So the way I'm feeling is very different. I'm not quite as irritable. And then there's just been some really sweet moments. We had some grounding time with the family over this last week. We had a really sweet date. And I think, and then I remember after the argument, I was like, okay, here's the deal. Whether I'm with him or not, I still have to do my own work. So I brought out the erotic blueprint again. Jaya loves erotic blueprint. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to redo this. So I sat down and I redid it and I pulled it up on his phone and I said, would you please do this? And so we both did the quiz, and then we watched the kind of description of it. He's energetic and I'm sensual. And then we went ahead and did the deep dive. And so we've been using those videos as a way the way I saw it was kind of like the 5 love languages. Like if my love language is quality time and his is gifts, and he's coming home and bringing me flowers, in his mind, he's thinking that he's communicating love, but I'm not necessarily hearing it as love because it's like, it's not my love language. And I think as we've been doing this deep dive over the last week or two into the erotic blueprint, I feel like it's given perspective where I'm like, oh, I'm better understanding his primary language, being energetic. And so it's just offered a new and creative way for us to find new influx into our marriage and into the bedroom to better understand one another. And then as a sensual, I can go, wow, okay, I'm understanding this better and relaying it to him as we're connecting. And so that created some softness in our communication and also in just feeling safe again to touch one another. And then last night he surprised me with the toy. I was like, how long have you had that? And it was really fun. Do you have anything to add?
My 2 cents would be, in essence, I feel like we were disconnected. No matter what I said or did, I don't feel like it landed, and vice versa. And so where I came to was, I'm a spiritual and personal growth junkie. I love the consciousness that's around growing and expanding. And what I realized is I was in a very fixed mindset in the bedroom. And in order for us to grow as a couple in the bedroom, I need to transition into that growth mindset. I need to expand, and I need to be willing to go outside of I need to be willing to challenge the edges of my comfort zone in order to grow. And so, just applied courage that I normally have in other areas and just applied it to that. And so I feel like I was able to step into that that energy of expanding our bedroom activity and connection.
Mhm.
Yeah. But in general, I feel like we're just, like probably most other couples out there, there's a rhythm. There's a rhythm of connection where we grow together, and then slight disconnection where we grow apart, and then we grow together. And it's almost like a two-dimensional helix, just a number of figure eights stranded where we together, apart, together, apart. And we need to have this pulsing of expansion and contraction that mirrors the natural flow of life and the rhythms and the seasons.
Mhm.
It's so beautiful. And I just want to like pause, underline, italicize, highlight that how to navigate life from a personal growth perspective, from a growth oriented mindset. And when there's stuckness, honestly, whether it's in the bedroom or anywhere else, then it's a beautiful thing to consider. Okay, how can I bring a growth mindset to this area? And if I already have, how can I bring it in a new way? I just love so much the way that you've shared that. And it takes me to another question. But before I do, I just want to say, in case anyone is listening and really resonates with the integrity in your stance, which you've now evolved out of, but the integrity in your stance, Michael, because just last week, episode 99, I dropped a podcast called Where Christians Get Their Sex Toys. And I interviewed this fabulous couple. They're Christians and they have a Christian sex toy shop. But the thing that makes it a Christian sex toy shop is not because you have to be Christian or have any particular religious faith or any faith at all. What makes it Christian for them is that there's no pornographic imagery anywhere on the website. So there's information about all of the tools and techniques and all of the different juicy enhancements that one can purchase and bring into the bedroom if so inclined, without needing to navigate through all the pornographic, seductive imagery. So you've obviously expanded, and maybe that no longer is something that calls to you. But if someone else is listening, I just wanted to remind you to have a listen and go to episode 99, where there's also a coupon code to romanticblessings.com, because I've gotten a lot of feedback from that episode. I didn't realize how the general population, the not necessarily church-based population, is very glad to be able to take advantage of that service. And pivoting back into this conversation, the one question that I ask everyone I interview is based on the reality that relationship is the ultimate vehicle for personal growth. So I'd love to ask you first, Michael, what have you learned about yourself as a result of being married to Maraya?
I think the biggest and most profound learning that I've had and continue to have in being in relationship with Maraya is that it's okay to be me. And I don't have to be anyone other than me. When Maraya and I first got together, there was a lot of my journaling and writing around being in relationship with Maraya has set me free in ways that I never thought possible. And so it's not just being me, the exterior shell of being me, but really it's safe to be me, to allow the me that's on the inside to come out.
Maraya, what have you learned about yourself as a result of being married to Michael?
Well, I think that there's two things. The first is a quote that we've said to one another from the very beginning, and that's, I will not change for you, but I cannot be with you without being changed by you. And the change is really beautiful. Being with Michael is, there have been very few times in my life that I've really felt safe. And he's offered me a container to just really feel safe, showing all the icky, the dirty, the good, the bad, those are judgmental words, but really the aspects of my personality that are in fear, so that there's a container for the aspects of my personality that can move into love. to really be expressed. And so I think that it's been that. It's been that I am lovable, and I can love, and it's safe. It's been pretty awesome. And it still is.
I love how simply you put that when, of course, those are seismic considerations. So thank you.
Yeah.
How does the quality of your marriage influence the work and facilitation you do with game-changing women, Maraya?
Yeah, no, it's potent. It's big. Like I said at the beginning, because I work with game-changing women, they often end up so much in their masculine and white knuckling it and burning the candle at both ends and all of the, I've got it. And so, and I'm also the founder and running my own business. And so I use, that's kind of a strong word, but I use the marriage as a platform to practice softening and receiving and playing with the moments where I can relinquish that feeling of holding it all together and running the show and being the CEO and the founder. And so the marriage, at least in our marriage, I feel like, because the support that I'm doing with women, of course, it's their physiology and their health and their adrenals because they're so fried, but it's also a deep dive into their sexuality and their feminine power for us to learn that I think the feminine way isn't necessarily working harder. I mean, I feel so grateful for the life that I've created and am still creating, and the money that has been generated. It's spectacular, but it's doing it in a really soft, feminine way. And so the marriage becomes that platform for me to practice, just like I practice eating healthy and doing my immune support and taking care of my adrenals and my stress reduction, so that I can say I'm walking the talk and make the recommendations for the women that come into my space and trust me to lead them. The marriage is just as important as what I'm eating and how I'm thinking and what supplements I'm taking, as well as how we're having sex, how we're making love. Did that answer your question?
It definitely did. So tell us a little bit about what you want people to know in terms of being able to find you.
Yeah. So you can find me in lots of places. You're listening to this podcast, so you're welcome to pop over to the Women's Vibrancy Code podcast. That's mine. And Alexandra, we haven't done the interview yet. It's scheduled, isn't it?
No.
We need to schedule you. Well, that's a side conversation. So you'll hear Dr. Alexandra Stockwell over on the Women's Vibrancy Code podcast. But you've got the podcast, you've got Maraya Brown as a YouTube channel, Maraya Brown in all of the social media spaces. I do occasionally do, online webinars and workshops that are free. So just stay tuned. But it's really mainly for women age 35 to 55 that are the game changers, the pioneers, really wanting to create big lives and big legacies. Even if you're a stay-at-home mom, but you want to create a big legacy and you want to live a big life and set that example for your children, it's that. And so it's women that are really hungry to transform their energy, their hormones, and their libido through the health lens, but also through the sexuality lens and the relationship lens and how we think and who we be. It's all of that.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And that, of course, will be in the show notes. Michael, any last words at the mic that you want to share?
What came to me when the previous question that you asked Maraya was about how the relationship, what I'd say is the relationship connection or energy influences other areas, is how we do anything is how we do everything.
Yeah, my favorite personal growth quote. Absolutely.
It's such a beautiful quote. And also how we pour into our relationship dramatically influences the rest of our life as well. And so I think coming together and being in alignment with where the relationship sits in one's list of priorities and values is important.
Particularly as example for our children.
Absolutely.
I want to believe that the effort that we're putting into our marriage and the life that we're creating is not just gifting our children, but it's also teaching them to fish, not just giving them a fish. They're being given the example.
Totally. At one point, I thought my professional work would be to serve children. And quite frankly, I still believe that it is. It's just that the best way that I know to serve children is to teach their parents how to have really fantastic relationships. That is the most efficient, profound way to help children.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the, I took a bumper sticker quote and kind of switched it around to parenting. And the bumper sticker quote was, be the human your dog believes you are, or something along those lines. And I just switched it to, be the human your children believe you to be, when they're in that really impressionable phase, when they believe that you're the biggest and the strongest and the smartest, and just like step into those shoes, not for the sake of the superlative, but for being fully present and being all that love for your children.
And we don't hide it from them. They see that we argue and we have conflict, and they get to be part of conflict resolution at times. I remember one time at bedtime, our 10-year-old and 8-year-old were giving us some of the most amazing marriage advice and relationship advice. We're like, wow, we're really doing a good job. And it plays out. It plays out in all of it, as well as my friendships out in the world. We get to do the work first inside and then outside. And I think inside includes within our intimate marriage or intimate relationships. Yeah.
I certainly agree. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, and please leave a rating and a review. And if you're ready to deepen your relationship and create a truly intimate, delicious, and vibrant marriage, head over to the Work With Me page at alexandrastockwell.com and choose the program that's right for you.